Hello, what's up everybody? Today I'm going to be taking the 8 values test. So this is a little bit different from the political compass test. It's mostly the same, but I like this test actually a lot better because it does give you, at the end of the day, a specific ideology. And I'll be honest, I'm not too big on labels. I mean, especially I think if you're a leftist, I think leftists get way too hung up on labels. And I spend more time fighting about that than the actual policy substance. But I do want to give you all some inkling of what my overall ideology is. So, let's do it. You will be presented with a series of statements. For each one, click the button with your opinion on it. Wait, never mind, I don't want to, I'm just kidding. Got it. Alright, oppression by corporations is more of a concern than oppression by governments. Yeah, I would mostly agree with that, especially because corporations essentially control the government. It is necessary for the government to intervene in the economy to protect consumers. Strongly agree. I mean, when you leave it up to the free market, well, there you go. The freer the markets, the freer the people. I just answered this question the other day, so no. It is better to maintain a balanced budget than to ensure welfare for all citizens. Strongly disagree. No, because like mostly people who are advocating for a balanced budget say, well, we need to cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, and that is just objectively a bad thing. Publicly funded research is more beneficial than to the people than leaving it to the market. Yeah, strongly agree with that. I mean, if say for instance, ExxonMobil is funding a study on climate change, and that's completely biased. So if it's like publicly funded, then that's a lot better, and it's a lot more objective. Tariffs on international trade are important to encourage local production. Yeah, I generally agree with that. I think I'm pretty protectionist, because our free trade deals in America have been disastrous for workers. So I think I'm pretty protectionist. So I would say yes. From each according to his ability, to each according to his needs. I already went over this, so light agree. It will be best if social programs were abolished in favor of private charity. I already answered this question. If I say I already answered this question, it means I answered it in the political compass. I'll put a link to that at the end of this video if you haven't seen it. Taxes should be increased on the rich to provide for the poor. Well, again, I didn't answer this exact question, but I kind of went over it. The general idea of it, so I'll just say strongly agree. Inheritance is a legitimate form of wealth. Not inherently, but at the same time, like if you say a family's worth like $500,000 and like the kid inherits that, like that's fine. But I mean, it's like with a lot like billionaires, there's no such thing as a self-made billionaire. Like especially like at least not in a capitalist state. So I would say neutral on that one. Basic utilities like roads and electricity should be publicly owned. Yeah, I think that makes perfect sense. Government intervention is a threat to the economy. Strongly disagree. Those with the greater ability to pay should receive better health care. I already answered this question. Quality education is the right of all people. Yeah, but I think definitely the education system does need improvements, and I think absolutely student loan debt should be canceled, and also public college should be tuition free. So I'm gonna say strongly agree, but I definitely do support reforms. The means of production should belong to workers who use them. You know, as much as I want to say agree to this, I feel like I should do a little more research. So I don't know. Do I do light agree or neutral or unsure? Whatever. We'll just do neutral for now. Sorry to any leftists who's just upset by that. Yeah, I try to shy away from using the word triggered because I don't know. A friend told me about it and has kind of a poor context. I can't really explain it, but I try not to use the word, so I apologize for that. The United Nations should be abolished. No, but it should absolutely be reformed. I mean, why the hell is Saudi Arabia on the friggin' Human Rights Council? Saudi Arabia doesn't allow women to drive. Like, do they do that now? Well, whatever. They're still a theocracy. They still have no business being, and they're committing the worst humanitarian crisis right now in Yemen. So, of course, they shouldn't be on the Human Rights Council. It should definitely be reformed, but I definitely do not agree that it should be abolished. Military action by our nation is often necessary to protect it. Well, in recent history, no. So, I'm going to disagree with that. Support regional unions such as the European Union. I don't know too much about the European Union, but I generally understand the need for like nations to come together on certain issues. So I'm going to say agree. It is important to maintain our national sovereignty. I think that has to do with... Hold on, actually, let me look up. I think I know generally what it means, but... Okay, it means mostly like self-government. in self-determination. So, I generally agree, but yeah, sure, whatever. We'll just light agree on that. No harm done. A united world government will be beneficial to mankind. I don't think so, because, I mean, I don't want to be working with countries that treat women and minorities as second-class citizens, like Saudi Arabia, like I mentioned, or places that are deeply authoritarian. So, like, on some issues, like, if we agree on something, then sure, maybe we can form an alliance, but I mean, I don't really think, in general, it's a good idea, so I'm going to disagree. It is more important to retain peaceful relations than to further our strength. Strongly agree. Wars do not need to be justified to other countries. Strongly disagree. Wars that are not justified have been the problem for U.S. foreign policy for the longest time. Military spending is a waste of money. In the U.S., 100% it is. We could cut it by half and still have the biggest military in the world, by far. And if, at least for the U.S., I'm going to say strongly agree, especially because, like, we don't have clean water in Flint, Michigan, and Jackson, Mississippi, and, you know, people are homeless, and there's going to be a mass eviction crisis with the pandemic. And so, by the same token, I will light agree that international aid is a waste of money. Just like when we have all those things going on in America, I think that we should focus first and foremost on the people here. My nation is great. Yeah, not really. Disagree. America's not a great country. Research should be conducted on an international scale. Yeah, sure. Government should be accountable to the international community. 100% they should. Even when protesting an authoritarian government, violence is not acceptable. It depends. Like, if it's as a last resort, like you've exhausted all other options, then yeah, I view that as self-defense, so that's fine. But I definitely would not really I'm not going to advocate for you doing political violence up front. If you believe it's self-defense, then sure, but like if you're doing it up front, like without being provoked, then I'm not going to advocate for that. So I'm going to disagree because it depends. My religious values should be spread as much as possible. Strongly disagree. Again, I'm agnostic, so I don't really have any religious values. Wait, did I answer that right? Our nation's... What? Oh, wait. Okay, my religious values should be spread as much as possible. Strongly disagree. Yeah, I thought I skipped a question. And I did. Our nation's values should be spread as much as possible. That sounds like code speak for a regime change war, so disagree. It is very important to maintain law and order. Again, sounds like code speak for like the war on drugs or for cracking down on protesters, so I'm going to disagree. The general populace makes poor decisions. I don't think so. I mean, in the last election, we had a lot of ballot initiatives in states. And in 4 states, they voted to legalize marijuana. In Florida, they voted for a $15 minimum wage. Oregon, they voted to decriminalize all drugs. Colorado, I think it was, they voted for paid sick leave. I think that's what it was. In Arizona, they voted to raise taxes on the rich. These are all just, to any leftist, objectively good things. So I would say they don't generally make poor decisions. I mean, they're not terribly informed, but at the same time, I think their gut instinct is generally correct. Physician-assisted suicide should be legal. Yes. I mean, if, like, you're reaching the end of your life and, like, you know there's no chance you'll survive, only after, like, it's completely... I don't think, like, an 8-year-old should be allowed to do that, but I think if you're an adult, then death with dignity, I think... It's very complicated. That I can't really explain it in a few things. The sacrifice of some civil liberties is necessary to protect us from acts of terrorism. Strongly disagree. The Patriot Act was a disaster. Government surveillance is necessary in the modern world. Disagree. The very existence of the state is a threat to our liberty. I wouldn't say so, because, I mean, the first question was, I agree that oppression by corporations is more oppressive than, more dangerous than oppressive by governments. I would disagree, not inherently, but when they do stuff like the Patriot Act, yeah, then it is kind of a threat to our liberties. Regardless of political opinions, it is important to side with your country. I already explained this in the political compass test. All authority should be questioned. Already explained this in the political compass test. A hierarchical state is best. Disagree. It is important that the government follows the majority opinion even if it's wrong. Well, after just advocating essentially for some form of direct democracy, well, I mean, if the majority of people believe that black people should not be equally protected under the law, well then no, the government should not follow the majority opinion in that case. If they believe that gay people shouldn't have the right to get married, then no, the government shouldn't follow the majority opinion in that case. So disagree. The stronger the leadership, the better. Not inherently, that just sounds like some, again, authoritative code speak, so no. Democracy is more than a decision-making process. Agree. It also includes stuff like civil liberties or the right to protest, which I guess is kind of decision making, but you get the point. Environmental regulations are essential. Strongly agree. A better world will come from science, automation, and technology. In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. A worse world will come because they're going to replace jobs and leave people out of work. So, in some ways, yes. In some ways, no. So I'm going to go neutral. Children should be educated in religious or traditional values. Disagree. We're not a theocracy. Traditions are of no value on their own. Not inherently, but, I mean, religion should... Well, there's a question coming up that'll kind of explain that. Religion should play a role in government. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, right. Churches should be taxed the same way other institutions are taxed. Yeah, sure. Climate change is currently one of the greatest threats to our way of life. Yeah, I made a whole video about it. It is important that we work as a united world to combat climate change. Yeah, 100%. Society was better many years ago than it is now. In some ways, yes. In some ways, no. So neutral. It is important that we maintain the traditions of our past. Well, slavery was a tradition of the past. I don't think anyone should think we should maintain it, and if you do, then please go screw yourself. But I don't know. I'm just really I really don't care about these traditions and stuff. I just want to do what's good. It is important that we think in the long term, beyond our lifespans. Yeah, 100%. Reason is more important than maintaining our culture. See, this is what I meant. This is the question. Yes, 100% it is. Because again, slavery is technically part of American culture. At least in the 18th and early 19th century, and most of the 19th century, actually. So, does that mean that we keep it? Hell no. So yeah, I strongly agree with that. Excuse me. Drug use should be legalized or decriminalized. Yes, I already went over this. Same-sex marriage should be legal. Yeah, I already went over this. No cultures are superior to others. Well, yeah, you don't really have the right to say that. Sex outside marriage is immoral. I already went over that. If we accept migrants at all, it is important that they assimilate into our culture. I mean, they don't have to. I mean, if they choose to, they can, but if they don't necessarily have to, so I'm going to say disagree. Abortion should be prohibited in most or all cases. I already went over that. Gun ownership should be prohibited for those without a valid reason. No, I mean, I think that if you're a law-abiding, mentally stable person, you should be allowed to bear arms. I think that's perfectly legal. Now, I mean, it's perfectly fine. Now, do I support an assault weapons ban? I think so. 2 years ago, I was, all for it, and I was, puffing out my chest advocating for it. Now, my thoughts are a little more nuanced, but generally, yeah, I do support an assault weapons ban because, let's be honest, you don't need those to go hunting or something. But, yeah, I generally disagree that if you should have the right to own a gun. If you're able to. I support single-payer universal healthcare. Yeah, 100%. Sorry, Mom. She works for the health insurance industry. That's why. Prostitution should be illegal. Strongly disagree. Freedom. Maintaining family values is essential. Again, all these family values, the Republican politicians who always run on, we gotta keep family values. They're the ones who, which basically means, we hate gays, we hate abortion, we love God. They're usually caught having sex with other men, because most of these people are men, and they're basically telling their mistresses to get abortions, when they cheat on their wives, so they have no moral ground to stand on. So, just based on that alone, I'm going to disagree. But at the same time, yeah, just because of the code speak, I'm just going to disagree. To chase progress at all costs is dangerous. Not inherently, but in some ways I can understand why. Genetic modification is a force for good even on humans. I don't know enough about it. We should open our borders to immigration. Well, I kind of support decriminalizing border crossings, and instead, you don't go to prison for it, or you don't get deported, you just, pay a civil fine or something like that. I think that's how it works. I could be wrong, though. So I'm going to go with neutral on that. Government should be as concerned about foreigners as they are about their own citizens. I'm going to light disagree. I know. This makes me kind of a bad leftist. Say all you want about it, but, I mean, with what's going on in America today, all the problems I mentioned, homelessness around the country, people losing their jobs, people working for starvation wages, people losing their health insurance and not being able to, dying because of it, people dying because of it. I'm sorry, I just think we need to put more emphasis focus on, the problems in America. All people, regardless of factors like culture or sexuality, should be treated equal. Yeah, 100%. It is important that we further my group's goals above all others. Yeah, right. Alright, let's see where I stand. So, there are 4 axes. Economic axis, I am very socialist. Pretty socialist, that makes sense. I think you would have guessed that by now. Diplomatic axis, peaceful. Yeah, I think that was pretty clear. Civil axis, libertarian. Yeah, makes sense. Societal axis, very progressive. Yeah, not just progressive, very progressive. Yeah, alright. As you can see, I am a libertarian. Socialist. Yeah, yeah. I think you would guess that it wasn't actually a real libertarian. Although someone tells me that I could make it in the Libertarian Party. I don't know. Party politics just suck in general, so I don't really want to do that. I switched to unaffiliated last summer from Democratic and never looked back. So yeah, this is it. This is my 8 values test results. I am a libertarian socialist. But again, I prefer to shy away from labels, especially if you're on the left, because like generally people, like I know a lot of leftists like to attack social democrats. You have a lot more in common with social democrats than you do, forget with the Republicans, like even with like the Democratic establishment. So I think like Marxists and social democrats are like fighting over like whose label is better. Honestly, I think that's kind of pointless. Gets us nowhere. If you want to have a debate on the issues, that's fine. But I mean, if you're just fighting on labels, you're just making noise and you're just desperately seeking attention. So I don't have any interest in that. So that's why I prefer to shy away from labels. I just prefer to call myself a leftist and leave it at that. I used to call myself a progressive, and I still do from time to time. But I'm kind of moving away from it because, like I mentioned, I mean, I'm currently in Massachusetts for college, but I live full time in Connecticut, and my senator Chris Murphy claims he's a progressive Democrat. Dude, you don't support Medicare for all. You vote to reauthorize the Patriot Act. You vote to blow up the military budget. Progressive much? So yeah, when you see like establishment Democrats co-opting the language of progressives and even co-opting the label, then I kind of shy away from it a little bit, and I just stick with leftists and kind of leave it at that. I think labels are something we as a society need to move on from and just have a debate on the issues, because that's where it is. Anytime we're debating something other than the actual substantive issues, we're not being serious. But I think libertarian socialism matches me perfectly because, you know, I saw that you saw the political compass as I come back as a left libertarian. So I think this makes sense. I think this is good. I like this test a lot. I like it a lot better than political compass because it actually gives you like the one thing that's way better from it is it actually gives you a neutral option, because like some of these questions I just straight up didn't know how to answer, so I was able to kind of cop out of them. So that's why this is much better. And also does have political related questions. Like the other one, a lot of it didn't really have to do with politics, but this one does. So I enjoyed taking this. If you guys want to take it yourselves, then the link is in the description below. And also check out my social media below. If you want to check out my last 2 videos, click somewhere on the screen. And that's it. I'll see you next week. Peace.